had a plethora of people screw up my name since I've been to Toastmasters, and I appreciate you getting it correctly. Thank you. Imagine somebody bursts through the door behind us right now and says, "Get your things. There's a bus waiting for you outside. I don't know when you can come back." That's what happened to over 350,000 people after the accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant on April 26, 1986. As many of you know from my previous speeches, nuclear power is something that I'm really intrigued about. I spend a lot of my free time reading it, studying the effects of it, and I think I'm in awe of how powerful it can be when used correctly, and how tragic it can be when the results don't turn out as we would hope. I visited the Chernobyl nuclear power plant site in June, not a traditional vacation, but one that was pretty exciting to me. And even when I was in Ukraine, a lot of Ukrainians said to me, why do you want to go see it? We should let bygones be bygones. When I came back to America, a lot of my friends said, "Why did you go to Chernobyl? What's at Chernobyl? What happened at Chernobyl?" And after seeing the environment there and seeing what those people had to go through, I think that in itself is a tragedy, that people don't understand the gravity of what happened. My goal today is to explain to you, without getting to the physics of nuclear reactors, Tom might be able to give us a more informative lecture on that, to talk about what exactly did go wrong at Chernobyl and what were the very real and tragic consequences due to the accident there on April 26, 1986. The accident happened at 1:30 in the morning at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. They were doing a test of the emergency backup cooling system. So to put it in layman's terms, if the reactor were to lose power, they need to pump water to keep the reactor itself cool so it doesn't explode. In order to do that, they have to lower the power of the reactor and eventually shut it down so they can test this backup system. Unfortunately, they lowered the power a little bit too far and shut off the computer backup safety system. So if you can imagine, you're standing in this huge room with just dials and levers and gauges, and you're trying to read what is going on inside of a nuclear reactor without the help of a computer. And they did this, they brought the power down too low, and they realized that it could be a potentially bad issue for them to have the power too low, so they quickly tried to bring it back up, and they're looking at all these gauges, and things are starting to get crazy. And the chief engineer was Nikolai Fomin, and he's running around trying to figure out what's going on with the gauges, and all of a sudden, boom! Huge explosion. 2 of them. Now, I was in the control room there. I saw exactly the layout of what happened, and I can't even imagine, after having been there, what it's like after having spent all of your time training for that to be your only job. And now you just sent radioactivity all over the entire world. But they're not the only ones who were affected. We also have to look at, and people all the time forget that, like I said at the beginning, over 350,000 people had to leave their homes. So imagine you're a worker in Chernobyl, and you wake up, and it's 7 a.m., you're getting ready for work. You look over at the power plant and there's smoke. And you didn't hear the explosions in the night, you just see some smoke. Maybe there's construction, maybe there's a small fire, they probably put it out. It's been running for years, never had an issue, I'm sure it's fine. The next day, you see Soviet troops come into the town. They're wearing gas masks, they're wearing protective suits. Things are starting to make you a little uneasy. Maybe your son comes up to you and says, "Dad, what are all these people doing here?" "I don't know, son. I'm sure it's fine." Then the next day, you get a knock on your door. Go to the door, you open it up. It's a Soviet soldier. He says, "Sir, you have to get your things. You can't bring your pets. Bring a few important belongings, maybe some food, money, your children. Get on the bus. Hopefully, we'll only be gone for a few days, and you can come back." The radioactivity situation from the reactor deteriorated more quickly than we had anticipated. We have to spend a few days cleaning it up, and then hopefully you can come back. The thing is I couldn't come back. their grandkids won't come back, their grandkids won't come back. As a matter of fact, some scientists say that people can't live back there for over 20,000 years. All I ask is that when April 26th comes around this year, and I don't know where you get your news from, if it's CNN or you read the New York Times, on April 26th they're going to have something that says the 30-year anniversary of Chernobyl. Don't just look at it as something that happened in Soviet Russia in 1986. Look at it as a very real consequence of nuclear power that went awry. And remember that over 350,000 people and the generations that will follow them will forever be affected. So please don't forget April 26th, 1986. Madam Toastmaster.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, and especially Dominic. I'm not going to try your last name because we already got it once. Dominic was giving speech number 6 in the Competent Communication Manual, so for the purpose of our guests or newer members, this is the basic manual that we all work through. It consists of 10 speech projects. And Dominic was giving speech number 6, vocal variety. And the purpose is to use a voice that's pleasant, that projects well, and to use your voice in a variety of ways to convey the message, such as pauses, such as volume, pitch, tone, timbre. And I thought you had many excellent examples of the use of your voice. I was a little confused by the title of the speech. When I first read it, I saw a date there, and I thought, well, he filled in the date where he should have put the title. And of course, the date was the title, April 26, 1986, and I didn't associate that with Chernobyl myself. I went, what is that date? Were you born then? I don't know, that's your, was that the date you joined? What? Well, it turned out to be the date that things blew up. I like the way you started with one of my favorite words to start a speech, imagine. Because you brought us into that place. We say imagine, and then paint a word picture, you take us right there. And then you paused after that first sentence. And that was the first of a plethora of examples of excellent pauses, which I will get to. In fact, the pauses I thought were the most effective use of your voice overall. I counted at least 6 examples where you used the pause to great effect. And the power of a pause is it allows the audience to absorb and think about what you're saying. And so it's not something you just kind of do in the middle of nowhere, it's something that you do when you want the audience to absorb what you're saying. The second use of vocal variety was when you said boom! And then followed that by a pause. Again, very effective. And the final one that I thought was particularly effective was when you had a dialogue between the father and the son. You changed your voice, you changed the timbre and the pitch to, Dad, what are these people here? Son, I don't know. So that really grabbed me emotionally, and I think it probably did the same for many of the others, because it's in that dialogue that you can really get your message across. So in terms of suggestions, I thought that your eye contact was particularly good. There was a note about Professor Eyes, and I think I've commented on that. I only counted 2 instances of that, so that's a great improvement. Overall, your eye contact was excellent. There was unconscious pacing, and that's the next thing I would work on. In other words, you want to maybe go to some place, state your point, and then maybe go somewhere else and state your point there. But there was a little bit of back and forth. And I think you could have used a little bit more dialogue. But overall, my favorite parts were when you built on previous speeches, such as using very dramatic words from speech number 5, the organization of the speech from speech number 2, and the point, which was to inform us, from speech number 3. So congratulations, and I look forward to hearing many more wonderful speeches.